how we're doing and if we're going to get any better. Because what gets measured is what gets done. You ever notice how uptight people get about those MCAS tests? Why do they get uptight about them? They're long and no one wants to do them. Those are good reasons. Why are the adults uptight, though? Right. Now, if we don't treat safety in the same way, it's never going to be important, right? Now, you're lucky, those of you who are here, you have adults that came with you that actually really care. That's why they're taking their time to be here today. The fact is, a lot of other folks won't care until they start getting measured on it, the same way we measure them on reading and math. And that's what we're proposing to start doing. How do we do that? Well, first of all, who are the biggest experts in any school on how safe the students feel? Has anybody ever asked you if you feel safe in your school? Now, this is really interesting to me. All the things you brought up are great, but none of you brought up what every other student audience has brought up with me. Everybody always brings up they want clear expectations, they want people to follow through, etc. But people also bring up they want it to be fair. Oh, I didn't hear you, so sorry. So people want clear rules, but they also want them to be enforced fairly. They don't want some people picked out more than others, right? You see that happening in your school? Some people get picked out more than others? So what we're looking for here is not only are there clear rules, but are they fair? And are people fairly treated? So these are all the kind of things that we're looking to measure. And this is actually, for the students, this might be like, oh, that all sounds logical. But this will be the first time in U.S. history the federal government has ever actually asked students what they think of their schools and made decisions about how much money a school gets based on what the students think. So this is a pretty big change. And it fits with the president's whole theme of we have to kind of give power to the people. The irony is there's two places in America where people go and they spend all day and they generally have very little say over how they're treated. Those two places tend to be prisons and schools. You know, young people go to schools. How many of you really feel like you have a say over how your school's run? Guess who else feels that way? Prisoners. Now, so what we're trying to do is to really change how schools work and to give students and the staff in schools and the families in schools a real voice in making schools better. Now, I want to talk to you about why I took this job. Since I'm in Western Mass, some of you might recognize this young man who was a 6th grader last year in the Springfield Public Schools. His name is Carl Joseph Walker Hoover. Now, for those of you who don't know his story, for those of you who do know it, bear with me while I repeat it. I had started an organization in my living room at a card table 14 years ago. And I built that organization from nothing to being a national group. I flew 2 million miles on American Airlines, just like George Clooney in that movie that came out last year. So at the end of 2008, I was deciding to leave my job. I had a new puppy. I was planning to take some time off. And I really wasn't looking for another job yet. And then the White House called and said, would you be interested in coming down and helping us make schools safe? Because you spent your whole career on that. And I went down to Washington, and quite honestly, when I came back, I thought about it over the weekend, and I thought, I'm probably going to say no. I mean, I was really flattered, but I had 3 reasons. Number one, I hate the weather in Washington. It's really hot. It's really sticky. I don't want to live there. Number 2, my partner is in New York. That's where his job is. He couldn't move, so it meant that during the week, all week, I'd have to be down in Washington by myself, no puppy, no partner. The third thing was the federal bureaucracy is like a big bureaucracy, and I thought, I don't know if I'm the right kind of guy to go down there into this big, huge system and make a difference. I'm kind of a little bit more independent than that. So I thought about it, and I thought I was going to call the secretary back on Monday morning and tell him no. And then over that weekend, somebody sent me over the internet a story about this kid. Carl Joseph Walker Hoover, as I mentioned, was a 6th grader in the Springfield schools in the 2008-2009 school year. He was getting bullied and harassed every single day at his school. And Mrs. Walker, his mother, did everything I would have told her to do if she called me in Washington. She met with school officials. She documented the problem. She told her son to come by and check in with her after school every day just to make sure he was okay. And I'm not from here, so I don't know what the schools at Springfield did, or if they did anything, or if they did something that just didn't work. But I do know that nothing seemed to ever get better for this kid. So that the week I was offered this job last year, in April of 2009, Mrs. Walker went into her son's bedroom as she found her son hanging from an electrical cord. Because Carl had decided he'd rather die than go to school. So I called the secretary back Monday morning and I said, when do you want me to start? Because there was only one right answer. There was only one morally correct answer to the question of, do you want to help us make schools safer? After I heard Carl's story. And that was, of course I do. School should be a place where people feel like they matter, they feel like they value, they feel like they belong. It should not be a place that makes you so miserable that you want to die. I know how Carl felt